And so let's recall our incredible fortune at having a precious human life and to have all the circumstances necessary to be able to do Dharma practice, including having our health, being able to encounter the Buddha's teachings, to meet teachers and have good Dharma friends, and ourselves to have some interest in the Dharma. And so let's make a determination to really use this opportunity wisely. And the best way to do that is to generate the aspiration for full enlightenment in order to benefit each and every sentient being. So cultivate that bodhicitta motivation now and really open your heart to being of service to all living beings. And then slowly open your eyes and come out of your meditation. Okay, so how to live a meaningful life. I think all of us are born with an instinctive wish to live a meaningful life. Some instinctive curiosity about why we're alive, how we got here, what happens after we die, and what's the meaning of it all. So I think we all have these questions, especially when we're young. At least I remember very clearly myself having a lot of these kinds of questions as I was growing up. Then I think what happens often is we get very entranced with the appearance of this life, okay? Because what our senses tell us, the appearances that appear to our senses, are so strong that we believe that everything we see is real. We believe that how things appear to us is how they exist. And so we just get all taken up with the appearances to our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. And so all those appearances concern this life. And then, of course, because we're socialized by society, and we have a lot of conditioning, then we want to fit in, we want to belong, we want to do what everybody else is doing. And so we get caught up in what seems important to society, what seems important to all the people around us, our family included. And what usually seems important is the things of this lifetime, okay? So specifically, having money and possessions, having a good family life, being appreciated and loved, being successful in our career, having a good reputation, and having pleasure. Okay, what we really want is pleasure. And so that's how we spend a lot of our lives, is chasing after all these kinds of things that seem to be so important and so pleasurable right now. But it's all actually quite deceptive, because what the Buddha taught is that things don't actually exist in the way that they appear to us. And although what we have is the appearance of just this one life, there isn't just one life. There's many lifetimes. And although we think we are the person who we are right now, the person associated with this body, with this personality, okay, then actually that's not who we are. Yeah, it's just an appearance that's conditioned by all these social factors. So we get quite locked into all this appearance, and we begin to have a lot of worries and concerns. And so we spend a great deal of our life worrying over the happiness of this life. So we worry about if we're going to have enough money, right? Everybody here worry about their money? Anybody here have enough money? No, nobody has enough money. So we all worry, oh, how can I have enough money to be secure? But no matter how much you have, you never feel financially secure. Okay. Then we worry about our reputation. What do people think of me? You know, our reputation is so important. I want everybody to think I'm wonderful. Yeah, even if I'm not, I want them to think I am. Okay, so how can I go about impressing everybody so that they think I'm wonderful? And oh my goodness, somebody doesn't like me and they're talking behind my back and they're ruining my reputation. That's terrible. You know? So we get really concerned about this, what other people think about us, what they're saying about us. Then we also get concerned about what they say to us, you know, because we all want praise, we don't want blame. We all want approval, we don't want disapproval. So we're all worried, you know, do people approve of me? Do I fit in? Do they like me? Okay, so we have a lot of worries about this, right? Do you worry about these kinds of things? Yeah? Are you concerned about how you're going to get pleasure? Oh, I want to see nice things. I want my house to be filled with beautiful things. How can I get more beautiful things? And I want to hear nice music. Yeah, and I want to have good food. Oh, yum. How can I get more good food? And I want all my sense experiences to be nice. Yeah, I want the room to be just the right temperature. Not too cold, not too hot. You know, my bed should be just the right hardness and softness. Not too soft, not too hard. Yeah. My food should be delicious. So we get very concerned about all these things and spend a great deal of time worrying about them, chasing after them, struggling to have pleasure. But at the end of the day, at the time of death, we separate from all these things. Okay. So everything that we've spent our whole life worrying about, fussing about, being preoccupied about, chasing after, at the time we die, it all stays here. Because no matter how much money you have, when you die, you don't take it with you. Okay? Even if you burn paper money, it doesn't come with you. All you get is a lot of smoke. Okay? And have you noticed that people only burn paper money? They don't burn real money. We would think somebody was an idiot if they burned real money. But the point is the same. Whether you burn paper money or real money, none of it comes with you when you die. Okay? Our whole reputation, when we die, you know, everybody might have a certain reputation here, but none of that goes with us to the future life. Okay? None of it. In fact, when we're reborn, we don't even know what people back on this planet are saying about us. Okay? So our whole life we spend trying to get a good reputation, trying to get people to praise us and approve of us. But at the time of death, we separate from all those people and we separate from the reputation. Okay? Because when you think about it, like we all see, there's a few little babies in the audience here, Okay? So maybe 2-3 years ago, these babies were in their previous life, right? So let's say they had a previous life here in Singapore and they were a certain person in Singapore with a certain reputation, etc., etc. Do you know by seeing that baby that, oh, that was so-and-so from their previous life? No, nobody knows. That baby doesn't know who they were in their previous life. Everything they were in their previous life is long gone. None of that reputation, none of that praise comes with them. They start fresh in this life as a little baby. Yeah? And then the first reputation we get as a baby is that we cry a lot. Okay? So our possessions, our loved ones, our reputation, our job, our prestige, our status in society, none of that comes with us when we go into the next life. And yet, we spend so much time and energy this life being concerned about these things. And in the process of being concerned about these things, we create a lot of karma. Okay? So what actually comes with us into the next life is the karma we create trying to be happy and avoid misery in this lifetime. Okay? So our possessions may not come with us, or they don't come with us, but the karma we created trying to get our possessions, that comes with our mind stream into the future life. Okay? So if we lied in order to get possessions, if we took things that didn't belong to us, if we cheated in our business deals to get things, all the things we got don't come with, but the negative karma from acting in those ways, that follows with our mind stream into the next life. Our reputation doesn't come with us into the next life, but all the things we did trying to get a good reputation and avoid a bad reputation, all that karma comes with us into the next life. So for example, if in this lifetime somebody's talking behind our back and we get really angry and upset, so we start talking about behind their back, and we start saying rumors about them, and we start criticizing them, and we create a lot of disharmony in our workplace because we're jealous of somebody, because we want to have the good reputation, not them, then, none of that good reputation comes with us. But all of that karma of talking behind people's back and creating disharmony and speaking harshly, all of that karma comes with us. Okay? You understanding what I'm saying here? Yeah? So the point is, we spend a lot of time being stressed out about things that are not important because those things don't last very long. They never make it into our future life. And even in this life, they hardly last very long. Because, whatever we get, we need to upgrade it soon, don't we? Yeah, you get a car, and in a few years, you need to get another car. You get a computer, then you have to upgrade it. Yeah, and they make things now so that they become obsolete, so that we're always in this process of feeling like we need to get more and we need to get better. Okay? So all this karma of greed, of possessiveness, of jealousy, because other people have what we think we should have. Okay? All this karma comes with us into the future life, but none of those possessions, none of the reputation or appreciation comes with us. Okay? So that makes us stop and ask ourselves, what then really makes our life meaningful? Okay? What is a meaningful life if everything that I stress about this lifetime doesn't last very long and I separate from it when I die? What does it mean to live a good life? And I think this is a crucially important question, because how we answer this question will determine how we live this life. Okay? So it's quite interesting. Thinking about future life helps us live this life in a better way. Okay? Now people are usually scratch their head and go, huh? What are you talking about? I thought the Buddha said, live now, be here now. If we're concerned about future lives, we're actually able to live this life in a better way and to be here now. Okay? Because when we're concerned about future lives, then we want to abandon negative actions in this life. We know our negative actions will bear results in our future life. So knowing that, we want to live ethical lives right now. Okay? We don't want to cheat or talk behind other people's back or do dirty business deals or create disharmony. We want to really live a good ethical life. When we have that intention to live an ethical life now because we want to take care of our future life, then we let go of the attachment that causes us to create negative karma. We let go of the anger and the jealousy that cause us to create negative karma. And when we do that, we're actually able to be present in this life a lot better and to be happier in this life, because we aren't so attached to things. Okay? Are you getting what I mean? This is a real switch in our way of thinking. When we have a lot of attachment in our mind, trying to eke out happiness in this life, actually we have less happiness. When we let go of clinging attachment, then we have more happiness, and we're actually able to experience things much better and really be present for what's happening, because our mind isn't so concerned with worry and stress. Okay, let me make an example for you. Okay, let's say you have a friend. If you're very attached to your friend and you're thinking, oh, I want to be with this person all the time. I want to be with this person because they're so wonderful. And because we're so attached to this friend and we want to be with them, then we also worry, ooh, I wonder if I did something wrong and they don't like me. Or maybe they're going to like somebody else better than me. Or maybe they're going to leave me. Or maybe we're going to fight. Or maybe something else is going to go on. And so we have all this kind of worry and turbulence in our mind because we're so attached to the person. We want to hold on to the person so bad. Then we never really enjoy what we have because we're always worried about losing it. And we're always, stressed out about trying to protect it. And so we actually never really enjoy what we have because the mind's so full of worry and fear. Okay? And because the mind is full of worry and fear, we engage in a lot of negative actions, which create the cause of suffering for future lives. When we care about our future lives and we want to live an ethical life this lifetime, then we let go of the worry and the clinging and attachment. When we let go of worry, then whatever we have, we're satisfied with. When we are satisfied with what we have, then no matter how much we have, we're happy. We enjoy what we have much more. Okay? And, then what happens is we have a better life this lifetime because we appreciate what we have. We're content with what we have. We don't create negative karma trying to, twist everything around so that we can, have all the pleasure we want. And so we have a happier future life as well. And so we're just able to enjoy what we have. When we're with our friend, we enjoy being with our friend. We aren't all worried about losing them or being separated from them or whatever. Okay? Understanding what I'm saying? Okay, so this leads us to really understand one feature about a meaningful life, and that is letting go of attachment, letting go of anger, letting go of jealousy. Okay? The more we can let go of those, the happier we are now, the more peaceful we will be when we die, the better rebirth we will have in the future. Okay? Also, the more we're able to let go of those disturbing emotions, the closer we will be to enlightenment. And if we're able to really develop our spiritual capabilities, then we'll be able to really be of great benefit and service to others. Okay? But that all starts out with loosening the attachment, loosening the clinging and the anger. Okay? When we loosen the attachment and the clinging, then we also have much less fear. Okay? Because we're not afraid of losing things, because we're satisfied with what we have. We aren't attached to them. Okay? So one factor of living a meaningful life is slowly, try and not be so attached. Try to work on the anger, subdue the anger. Yeah? Try, instead of being jealous, to rejoice at other people's good fortunes. Instead of being angry at them, try and have some loving kindness. Okay? Instead of being attached and clinging and wanting everything for ourselves, try and be more generous. Okay? If we do that, we'll be happier now, and actually the whole society will function a lot better. Okay? So, letting go of attachment, jealousy, anger, that's one factor of a meaningful life. This leads us to another factor of a meaningful life, which is ethical discipline, okay? Abandoning negative actions. So these are negative actions because they bring us suffering in the future, and they generally cause us and others a lot of suffering now. So these are actions such as taking life, even the lives of animals, stealing. Okay, and that doesn't mean, being a robber and breaking into somebody's flat, but it also means at your workplace taking things that belong to the company and using them for your own personal use. That's actually considered stealing. Stealing also includes not paying taxes and fees that you're supposed to pay. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Then the third one is to avoid unwise sexual behavior. Okay, so avoid having a relationship outside of your own marriage or your own committed relationship. Or even if you're single, avoid going with somebody who is married, because this just creates so much havoc in families, so much incredible unhappiness. Okay, for the entire family and especially for the kids. Okay, then, to abandon lying. If we're able to let go of lying, we live a much happier life, a much more ethical life. If we use our speech for creating harmony instead of disharmony, okay, again, our life becomes much better. If we use our speech instead of criticizing other people and speaking harshly to them, to speak kindly and to encourage them. And I think this is a really important thing, yeah, because how much time do we spend actually speaking harshly to other people, especially the people we love? Okay? How much time do we spend complaining to people or about people? Who here likes to complain? Oh, just you and me. Okay. Nobody else likes to complain? Come on. Who likes to complain? Okay. So we spend a lot of time complaining, don't we? Yeah. In fact, I joke that I have my PhD in complaining. Okay. Expert complainer. Never make a mistake. Know how to complain about anything. You give me any topic, I will complain about it. Okay? Somehow we feel that if we complain, we're going to be happier. Are we happier when we complain? No, we're not happier. Are the people around us happier when we complain? No, they're more miserable. When we live with people who are more miserable, are we happier? No. So actually, when we complain, we become more unhappy. Okay? So, using our speech to in a wise and kind way, is much better than complaining and criticizing and speaking harshly to others, blaming others for all of our problems. Okay? Who likes to blame other people? Okay, it's me and 5 other people. Yeah, so we'll blame all of the rest of you. Okay, yeah. But we love blaming other people, don't we? We can spend so many hours blaming other people, talking behind their back, criticizing them. You know, we complain about our children, we complain about our boyfriends and girlfriends, about our husbands and wives, about our parents, about our boss, you know, about our employees. We complain and complain and complain. We whine. We blame them for our problems, okay? It's everybody else's fault that I'm so unhappy. Poor me. Okay, and then we come to a Buddhist talk because we're hoping the Venerable will teach us better ways to get other people to change. Yeah, because us, why should we change? You know, I'm just, wonderful, completely perfect little me. It's all the harm in the world is due to other people. So please teach me how to make other people change. Okay. Huh? Yeah? Can we ever control what somebody else does? Forget it. Forget it. Yeah, we can't control what anybody else does. We have a hard enough time controlling ourselves, and we're the only one that we can possibly ever control. Okay, so rather than spending time blaming other people, criticizing other people, much better we focus the attention inward and we think, what can I do to make my own mind happier so that I'm a more pleasant person to live with? Instead of complaining that my family isn't nice enough to me, to ask ourselves, how can I become a nicer person so that they'll want to be nicer to me? Yeah, what do you think? Because we complain so much. You're not nice to me. You don't treat me well. You don't love me enough. You don't do this thing. You don't appreciate me enough. I work so hard and you just take me for granted. Okay? And we think that by complaining like that somebody else is going to love us. Do you love somebody who complains and blames you? Okay, so why do we think that if we complain enough, somebody's going to like us? Yeah, it doesn't work. Doesn't work. Okay, then, another one of speech to abandon is idle talk. You know this one? Yak, 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 yak. Yak, 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 yak. What's this colleague doing? And what's that neighbor doing? And where can you buy this? And what's the latest sale? And what are the sports teams doing now? Who won the soccer match? Just idle talk, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So here we have a precious human life with the ability to become fully enlightened Buddhas. And what do? We spend our time talking about other people and talking about where to go to save a few pennies when we buy something. You know, we need to really think about what our life potential is. Yeah. And then use our speech to talk about meaningful things that are actually going to bring benefit to ourselves and others. Okay, then there's 3 more negative actions that we want to abandon to live an ethical life. One is coveting, okay? So this is the mind that always wants stuff. Yeah, want, I want. Yeah, this is what all the advertising is trying to get us to do, is to covet more stuff. Okay, now somebody's going to get upset with me and they're going to say, you're teaching people not to covet? Then they won't go out and buy so many things. That's bad for the economy. You shouldn't teach other people not to covet. You should teach them to be greedy and to want more, because that's good for the economy. But you know, it might be good for the economy right now, but what are we doing to the Earth's resources? When we overconsume, we're depleting the Earth's resources. We have so much garbage and trash, you know, and all of our children, well, your children, I don't have any, you know. All of your children are going to have to clean up all the rubbish we create. You know, is this kindness? To pollute the world, to overconsume, to create a lot of waste and then leave it for future generations to clean up? That's not going to help society. That's not going to help our planet. Okay? So don't just think that coveting and, you know, what's good for the market now is good eternally. It's not necessarily the case. In fact, I think it's incredibly important for companies to be very environmentally conscious. And I want to offer this as a challenge to all the people in the audience who work with various companies. You know, how can you make your company more environmentally responsible so that we make this planet a safe place for all the children and grandchildren and all the future generations? And I want to offer it as a challenge to all of you of how do we recycle our waste? Yeah, there's so much newspaper and regular paper and plastic and aluminum cans and, you know, all these things that can be recycled. And in your home, do you recycle things, or do you just throw them all out and create so much garbage, again, for future generations to have to clean up? Okay? Because if we save all these different things and then recycle them, you know, we're really taking care of our planet, of our society, of future generations. So I think this is something that's quite important, you know. If we're going to be Buddhist, you know, because the essence of being Buddhist is to avoid harm and to be of benefit, then we have to ask ourselves on an environmental level, how can we do that? Yeah, and one of the easiest ways is not to consume so much, to recycle things, to reuse things. Okay? And especially for companies, when they produce different things, to really take care of the environment. And not to think, oh, well, my company is producing things in another country, so it doesn't affect Singapore, it's okay. Because that's not true, because we live in as a whole planet, and with global warming, all of us are affected. Okay? So your company might produce things in China or Korea or somewhere else, but still the pollution is going to affect you here because the global warming affects all of us. The depletion of the ozone layer affects all of us. Okay? So part of living an ethical life, part of living a meaningful life, is not to harm the future generations of living beings who come after us, and to try and serve others and benefit them as much as possible. Okay? Because if we can do that in our lives, then when we die, we have no regret. Okay? If we don't abandon harmful actions, okay, when we die, we have so much regret because we haven't lived our life in a meaningful way. Okay, if we give up opportunities to be of benefit, then when we die with regret because we've given up beautiful opportunities. Okay? So, to live meaningfully, we have to be really aware of what we're saying, thinking, and feeling and doing right now, because we're creating the cause right now for how we're going to die, for our future lives, for whether at the end of the day we feel that we've lived a meaningful life or not. Okay? So all this thing of abandoning harm, it means on an individual level and on a societal level, especially taking care of our environment. Another point in making our life meaningful is to develop a kind heart. Okay? So to have an attitude that is friendly, that is kind, that wishes other people well. So instead of competing with other people, to wish them well. Now you're going to say, what? You're telling me not to compete with other people? I've been competing with other people since I was in kindergarten. Yeah, even before kindergarten, I was told to compare myself to other people and compete with them. I was supposed to be the best person in kindergarten. I was supposed to be the best student in primary 1. My goodness. You know, we don't even let kids be kids anymore. Already so young, they have so much pressure to compete. Yeah, I don't think that's healthy for children. And when they have all that pressure to compete, then they can't really access their own creativity because they become so stressed out and nervous about, am I going to be best? And of course, only one person can be best. So that means everybody else feels like a failure. Everybody else goes through life feeling like they're not good enough. Yeah, that's not healthy for society. Okay? So I think, if we want to develop a kind heart, we have to stop comparing ourselves to other people, and we have to stop teaching our children to compare themselves to other people. Okay? We have to teach the children, and we have to feel ourselves that each one of us has our own unique talents, our own unique abilities. Each one of us has the Buddha nature. Therefore, each one of us is valuable. So we don't need to get the highest mark in society. We don't need to get the award at work. We don't need to get the promotion. Okay? What's more important is that we have a kind heart and that we use whatever talents and abilities we have for the benefit of others. Okay, who cares if we're best? If we don't benefit anybody else, being best, competing with others and coming out number 1 means nothing if we don't have a kind heart. So cultivating this kind heart, being content with who we are, being content with our family members and our children, and really seeing the kids as, precious little gems with so much potential and Buddha nature, and appreciating them for what they are, instead of always nagging the kids, you should do better on your spelling test, you should do better on your math test. Okay? So kids, I'm sticking up for you. Yeah. Yeah. But really and truly, if you give your kids some space to be who they are and encourage them to be their own beautiful person with their own beautiful potential, instead of saying to them, why aren't you like so-and-so and why aren't you like so-and-so? Like really encourage your kids to use their own potential, because each child is going to have their own talents. Okay? So encouraging people like this is part of having a kind heart. Yeah? So in just whoever we're with, whatever is going on, to try and have an attitude of kindness towards the other people around us. This is one way that's really important to have a meaningful life. This afternoon, I visited somebody who was sick in the Singapore General Hospital. And I was telling her this story of a friend of mine who was quite young but got really ill, and she had a very bad prognosis for her disease. And her initial reaction was to become quite frightened and quite worried. And then she said, okay, I'm scared, I'm worried, but if the Dalai Lama were in my shoes and had this really bad disease, what would the Dalai Lama do? And what she came up with was just be kind. And so she made the decision that, when she was in the hospital, she was just going to be kind to the doctors, to the nurses, to the technicians, to the therapists, to the janitors. Yeah. She made up her mind that she was just going to be kind to her family, to her friends, to whoever she happened to come in contact with. So whether she was healthy, whether she was sick, her whole motivation was just to be kind. Okay? If we can have that motivation to just be kind, then our life becomes incredibly meaningful. Don't you think? Yeah? Who are the people really who we admire the most? Yeah? They're the people who are kind, not the people who are powerful and who abuse others, but the people who are kind. Those are the people that we trust and admire the most. So if we have that motivation in our life just to be kind to whoever happens to be in front of our nose at that very moment, then our life becomes very meaningful. Yeah? And being kind doesn't have to be hard. Okay? Being kind doesn't mean, oh, do you want a glass of water? Oh, do you want this? Oh, do you want that? Do you want this? Do you want that? Oh boy, we're going to drive people nuts that way. Okay? So being kind doesn't mean being fussy. Okay? Sometimes being kind to somebody means just smiling at them. Or sometimes being kind means sharing a moment of silence, okay, without filling the silence with a lot of chatter. Okay? Sometimes being kind means helping somebody carry something. Yeah? There's so many big and small ways to be kind. Yeah? I mean, even during the day, as you're going around, if you're taking the bus, yeah, you can be kind to the bus driver. You can say please, you can say thank you. You can smile at the bus driver. Yeah, there's so many just this small ways as we're going about our everyday life, just to put kindness in the world, to put kindness in our own hearts. That makes our life very, very meaningful. Okay? Some other things that help make our life meaningful is to do some Dharma practice, okay? To purify our mind, to purify whatever negative karma we may have accumulated before, and to really go out of our way to create positive potential or merit. And I think it's important when we talk about creating merit that we understand what it means. And I think here the positive potential is a much better translation of the word. Because when we talk about merit, we think of getting gold stars on our paper, don't we? Okay, that's not what the Buddha meant. Okay, what merit means is positive energy, positive potential, good karma, something that has the potential to bring happy results in the future. So if we try to create a lot of this positive potential, then our lives become very meaningful because we become kinder now and we create so much cause for happiness in the future and we approach enlightenment. Okay, so how do we create positive potential? Well, again, through being ethical, through being generous, okay? And not just being generous with our own family, but being generous with strangers, yeah? As Buddhists, I think it's very important, or even as non-Buddhists, that it's very important that we do social welfare work, that we benefit other people, who don't have the resources, or people who are sick and who need help, okay? But to engage in some kind of social welfare work, yeah, that creates a tremendous amount of positive potential. Also, when we do spiritual practice, we create so much good energy, okay? So setting up a regular daily meditation practice, or maybe if you have an altar at home, making offerings to the Buddha every day, or setting some money aside each day to give to a charity, okay? Or doing a meditation practice, spending some time being quiet and peaceful, or spending some time reading a Dharma book. All these things, create so much positive potential in your life. And at the end of our life, when we die, if we have a vast resource of positive potential, again, our mind is completely relaxed and we're free from regrets. Okay? Then another way to make our lives meaningful is by listening to the Buddha's teachings, by thinking about them and reflecting upon them, by meditating on them and putting them into practice. And so here in Singapore, you're very fortunate to have so many Buddhist temples and Dharma centers and monasteries, and so many people here who you can learn the Buddha's teachings from. So I really encourage you to make your life meaningful by attending teachings, by attending meditation retreats, okay? By starting a regular daily meditation practice at home, by taking time out each year to do a little bit longer, maybe a Dharma course, or go on pilgrimage, or do a longer retreat, because these kinds of things so much enrich our mind and pacify our mind, making our mind very joyful, very smooth. And so in that way, it makes our life really meaningful. Okay. Another way to make our life meaningful is by actualizing the three principal aspects of the path to enlightenment. So the first one of these is the determination to be free. Sometimes it's translated as renunciation, but it means to renounce suffering and the causes of suffering, and to have the determination to be free from this cycle of existence. Okay, that's the first principal aspect of the path. If we can hear teachings on this, think about it, meditate on it, we make our lives very meaningful. Similarly, with the second principal aspect of the path, what is called bodhicitta, or the altruistic intention. So this is the intention, the wish to become a fully enlightened Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Okay, so the mind that has those two intentions, to benefit sentient beings and to become a fully enlightened Buddha in order to do that, that's called the bodhicitta. When we live our life with that kind of noble, miraculous motivation, then everything we do becomes very meaningful, because our motivation is for the benefit of all sentient beings, and our motivation is for the highest enlightenment. Okay. Then the third principal aspect of the path, Okay, we had the determination to be free, or renunciation, the altruistic intention, or bodhicitta. Then the third principal aspect of the path is the wisdom that realizes reality, the wisdom that knows how things exist, that realizes things as they are, the wisdom that can see through all these deceptive appearances of this life, the wisdom that can dispel all these wrong conceptions, thinking that we're permanent, thinking that things that are suffering in nature are happiness, thinking that things that don't have solid existence have solid existence. Okay, so generating this kind of wisdom, anything we can do going in that direction makes our life extremely meaningful. Okay? And then in order to do all of this, relying on a spiritual mentor is very important. Okay? So finding a Dharma teacher that we really connect with, a teacher whose teachings really inspire us and uplift us, in whom we have a great deal of faith, and that faith leads us to practice the teachings more in our daily life. So relying on a spiritual mentor who is qualified, who is trustworthy, who we have a good connection with, and who we devote ourselves to in a proper way, that creates so much positive energy, because it sets the stage for learning what to practice, what to abandon, how to make our life meaningful. Okay? So these are just some ideas that I shared with you now about living a meaningful life, what to do. Okay? So things like, lessening our greed, our anger, our jealousy. Living an ethical life, developing a kind heart. Okay? Purifying any negative karma, accumulating positive potential. Okay? Generating or developing the three principal aspects of the path, the determination to be free, the altruistic intention, and the wisdom realizing reality. Okay? Relying properly on a spiritual mentor. All these things are ways to make your life very, very meaningful. Okay? And the thing is, if we make our life meaningful now, then when the time to die comes, we're so relaxed. Yeah? Why? Because we don't have any regrets. Okay? We've forgiven everybody that we need to forgive. We've apologized to everybody we need to apologize to. We aren't harboring regrets for decisions we've made in our life. Or even if we made bad decisions, we purified that so that we've let go of any regret that we've had. Okay? So if we can die with this kind of mind, then dying just becomes so relaxing. Yeah? And then, if you know how to meditate properly, because you've really relied on a spiritual mentor and really put some energy into learning the Buddha's teachings, then actually death becomes a time when you can do incredible meditation and actually gain spiritual realizations. Okay? And so at that time, if you're able to do that, then you have so much goodness, so much positive energy that you can take on with you to the future life, as well as having, created so much goodness here and benefited so many other people here while you've been alive. Okay? So these are some ways to make our life meaningful. So it's really up to each one of us to think about this and to spend some time contemplating it and to think of how we can put it into practice. Yeah? Because what I'm doing here at the Dharma Talk is just giving you like a little inkling, a little sprinkle of something. It's the tip of the iceberg. But you have to go home and think about this, and then really try, based on what you think about it, set your priorities in your life very clearly. You know, take time making your decisions and make wise decisions. And even if you make unwise decisions, clean it up later on, okay? And let go and don't feel guilty. But, you know, each one of us is responsible for our own lives. So I can give you some suggestions, but then you need to really go home and think about it and put it into practice. Okay. So those are some reflections to share with you. What I'd like to do now is open it up for questions and comments.
Just now you were speaking about people constantly blaming others. There's one thing that comes to my mind, which is that in Asian society there's another worrying trend, which is a lot of people blaming themselves much more.
Yeah.
So if there was one thing that you could tell to someone who has very low self-esteem and having a lot of self-blame, what would it be?
Am I limited to one thing?
Yeah, you could always choose to speak more.
Okay, so somebody who's suffering from low self-esteem, who's blaming themselves, what kind of advice would I give them? First of all, to recognize that they have the potential to become a fully enlightened Buddha. And that Buddha nature is the nature of their mind. It is inseparable from their mind, so they can never lose their Buddha nature. So there's something pure and good about them, and they just have to spend some time uncovering it and cultivating it and letting it rise up. Okay? So I think one, knowing the basic purity of the mind, just having some sense of that, some sense of our potential as human beings. No matter what we've done in our lives until now, we all have the Buddha nature, the Buddha potential. So that's one thing I would tell somebody who suffers from low self-esteem. Second thing I would tell that person is to cultivate a kind heart towards others. Now you're going to say, well, wait a minute. How can they cultivate a kind heart towards others if they don't like themselves? Well, very true. So you have to like yourself, okay, to have a kind heart for others too. But also, I think what happens when people have low self-esteem is they're spending too much time thinking about themselves. Okay, so when we get into this thing of blaming ourselves and low self-esteem, then we have this record going on in our mind. I do everything wrong, I'm a failure, I'm no good at this, I'm no good at that. We tell ourselves the story all the time, and then we waste so much time and energy thinking that that story is true. Actually, it's not true. Okay, so instead of spending so much time being depressed and being insecure, just stop thinking about ourselves so much and go out and be of benefit to somebody else. Go out and act with a kind heart. Because if we put our attention on other people and the welfare of other people, then automatically we're going to be less ego-sensitive ourselves. And we're going to feel better about ourselves because we're really contributing to the welfare of others. So this, again, doesn't mean we need to all go out and be Mother Teresa, because there's only one Mother Teresa. But it does mean that whatever way we can extend our heart and extend some kindness to others, that much more it's going to really improve our own self-esteem.
Thank you.
Okay?
In your book, you mentioned that karma cannot be dedicated. I mean, you sow the seed, you harvest the fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way that you can do something example for your parents that will benefit them? That is one part of my question.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is referring one of the book by His Holiness Dalai Lama, the same title on ways to meaningful life.
Mm-hmm.
When I thought I understand the concept of emptiness, when things or entity don't exist on its own, but it's all interconnected,
Mm-hmm.
he integrate this with this Four Noble Truths,
Mm-hmm.
saying that there's no suffering, so there's no cause to the suffering, at the end, there's no cessation to suffering because there's no suffering. So eventually there's no path to the cessation of the suffering. So eventually I was thinking, meaning there's no Four Noble Truth after all. So maybe you can enlighten me on this point
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
I'm very new to Buddhism, so maybe a little bit slow there.
Okay. I think it's really great that you ask your questions. So your first question was about benefiting your parents, okay? First of all, when your parents are alive, before they die, encourage them to create positive karma. Okay, that's the best way to benefit your parents. Don't wait until they die. Okay, benefit them while they're alive by encouraging them to make offerings, by encouraging them to be kind. Don't encourage them to lie or to do other things like that, but really encourage them to have good ethical values and principles. That's the best way to help your parents. Now, after they die, a way to help them, although we cannot transfer karma to them because everybody creates their own karma and experiences the result of their own action, what we can do is we can make offerings on their behalf, or we can, do any kind of virtuous action and then dedicate the positive potential accumulated from that virtuous action towards the benefit of our parents. Okay? So what this dedication means is that through our own virtuous actions, we're sending all that good energy towards them, and that good energy creates a way for their own good karma to ripen. Okay? So you're right, we can't transfer our good karma to somebody else's mind stream. It's not like doing a wire transfer from one bank account to the next. Karma's not like that. But what we can do is through doing virtuous actions and dedicating it for our deceased parents, then it sets up that good energy around them, and then hopefully their own good karma will ripen in that energy.
Because the folks, when they're alive, it's not easy to get them to do things that they are not willing to.
Oh yeah, I know.
because we are we and they are they.
Yeah.
So is there any way that we can do things?
You show them by your example how to have a happy mind.
That I'm already doing, or try to do.
Okay. But we can't make anybody else do anything. But we can try and actually with anybody, whether it's your parents or your children, if you live a good life, you're setting a good example for other people about how to be kind and how to be happy. Okay. Then the second question, and this relates to the Heart Sutra. Many of you may be familiar with the Heart Sutra, where Avalokiteshvara is saying, there's no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, okay? No suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, okay? What that means is not that it doesn't mean that these things don't exist, okay? Because clearly we have eyes, don't we? We have ears, we have nose, we have we have a mind. Suffering exists, the cause of suffering. All these things exist. But what is meant when we say, in the context of the Heart Sutra, there's no this and no that, is it means that there's no inherently existent suffering, no inherently existent cause of suffering, no inherently existent cessation of suffering, no inherently existent path to the cessation of suffering, okay? Because inherent existence means something that is solid, that stands on its own, that is independent and unrelated to anything else. And things, we think things exist that way. Things appear to our senses to exist that way, as if they had their own essence. But they don't exist that way. Everything exists in a dependent way. Okay? So when it's saying no, there's no this and there's no that, it doesn't mean that on a conventional level that none of these things exist. It means that all of these things are not inherently existent, but they do exist dependently. Okay? I have a couple of written questions here. Okay, what are the benefits of liberating animals? And yet, why are some Buddhist masters against it? Okay, the benefits of liberating animals are, first of all, the animals are happy. You know, they have a long life, so we're benefiting sentient beings. Also, by saving sentient beings who are going to die, then we purify any negative karma, we purify negative karma we have created from killing, because we're doing the opposite of killing, which is saving life. We're also creating the cause to have a long life and to be healthy ourselves. So these kind of benefits accrue from liberating animals. Now, I haven't encountered any Buddhist masters who are against it, but what I do know is that we have to liberate the animals in a proper way, okay? So we need to be environmentally conscious when we liberate the animals. I remember in the US, somebody called me, some newspaper called me, they wanted to interview me about this, because they were afraid that people were buying a certain kind of fish and liberating it in a lake in which that fish would then eat all sorts of other animals and destroy the ecological balance in the lake. Okay? So clearly, if you're going to liberate animals, you don't want to do it in a way that destroys the ecological balance and creates a lot of other harm in the environment. Okay, you want to do it in a way where that animal can live and where nobody else is harmed in the process of it. Okay, so you said that there's no need to be number one or to be the best. But isn't it true that if we strive to be the best, we can draw out our greatest potential? Will the non-competing nature make one complacent and become mediocre? Well, it would seem that way. However, I don't think it actually functions that way. Okay? Because I know for myself, when I become competitive, I actually am not functioning at my best. Okay? Because when I'm competitive, I'm nervous, I'm stressed out. Okay? When we're nervous and we're stressed out, are we really doing our best? I don't think so. I think we really do our best when our mind is relaxed, when it's happy, when we have a good motivation. I think that makes us do our best. Okay? So I think letting go of competition, but instead wanting to do our best because it's a benefit to sentient beings, that helps us to bring out our best and to not be mediocre. Are you getting what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that you give up competition and then you just sit there going, duh, because competition was the only thing that made you get out of bed in the morning. Okay? Not like that. But rather, we try and use our own unique talents and abilities because we really want to make a positive contribution to society, because we really want to benefit others. And so we have a positive motivation, but we're not tense and stressed out and constantly looking at the other person to see if we're better than them. Okay? You want to ask a question? Okay.
I've read quite a number of books on Buddhism. The philosophy is really practical, rather. when it comes to mentioning about past life and future life, I find, okay, is there a way to find such an evidence for myself as an experiential level? I mean, is there any method apart? I mean, is meditation the only method?
Okay. I think it's better to experience this life. Yeah, past life's gone. Yeah, I don't think it's particularly important to remember what we did in our past lives. What's more important is how we live this life, okay? But knowing that we had past lives, then we know that we created some good karma, we created some bad karma, and that's going to be ripening in this life and influencing what we become. Okay? So when we have happiness, thinking, oh, this is a result of my past karma from previous lives, by being kind, by being generous, so I like this result, I'm going to continue to create that kind of cause. Or when we have suffering, instead of complaining, thinking this is the result of my own negative actions in the past life, so I better get my act together and not do these kinds of negative actions again in the future. So that way of thinking can actually help us in this life. But sitting and, who was I in my past life? What did I do in my past life? That's not so important. Okay?
Okay, but just a bit more. Okay, it's about not say who I was in the past, but the fact that there's such thing called past life.
Okay.
So that it's more like, if you know there's a past life, then there will be a future life. But if there isn't a past life, then maybe this is the only life we live.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Okay. So I think a way to do this, what I found most helpful,
Yeah.
is to think about it logically. Okay?
Fine. Yes, please elaborate.
Each moment of consciousness that we have came from a cause. Consciousness doesn't come without a cause, does it? Our consciousness right this very moment came from a cause, which was the consciousness of the previous moment. Okay? Our consciousness of the previous moment came from a cause, the consciousness of the moment before that. So what we find here is that we have one moment of consciousness arising from another moment of consciousness, and this can be traced back. So we can see that there's a continuity of consciousness back to the time when we were children. We may not remember everything in our life, but we know that there's a continuum of one moment of consciousness being created by another moment of consciousness, back to the time we were kids, back to the time we were infants, even back to the time when we were in our mother's womb. There was consciousness at that time, okay, even though we don't remember. Yeah. So if we trace the continuity of our consciousness in this life back and back and back, to childhood, to infancy, to being a fetus in our mother's womb, then when we come to the time of conception, we have to ask, where did that first moment of consciousness in this life come from? Okay? We can't say it came without a cause, because nothing comes without a cause. Nothing can be created without a cause. Until now, we've had one moment of consciousness arising from a previous moment. So too, at the moment of conception, that moment of mind arose because there was a previous moment of mind. And so in that way, we can trace back this continuity of consciousness into previous lives. Okay? And we could just keep tracing it back, and actually there was no beginning to consciousness at all. In fact, it's impossible that there's a beginning. Yeah? Because if you posit a beginning, then you have to ask, what existed before the beginning? If something existed before the beginning, which was the cause of the beginning, then the beginning wasn't the beginning. Okay? If nothing existed before the beginning, then how out of nothing could you have something arise? Because nothing nothing originates without a cause. Okay? So if we just think about it logically, we see that there's just this continuity of consciousness, one moment being created by the previous moment. Okay?
Thanks.
Sure.
Venerable, I have a question regarding what you mentioned just now. You mentioned about the importance of developing kindness instead of competing and comparing ourselves with others, and also to accept ourselves so as to develop our own unique potential. Now, our society has always emphasized on being the best in school, sometimes to the point that it breeds elitism. So how can we put this to practice in our lives? And how can we find peace by just being ourselves with our own unique talent? Thank you.
It's a very good question, because you're asking in a society in which we have so much pressure to be best and to compete, how do we live? And I think this is this same thing. We have to be brave and not necessarily go along with everything we learn in society. Okay? So if society is going down a wrong path, we don't need to go there with it. Okay? So even if everybody else around us is in this frenzy of competition, that doesn't mean we need to go along with it. We can still be relaxed. We can still be happy. We can still cultivate a compassionate heart. We can cultivate a mind of contentment, and we can still make a positive contribution to society, and maybe a better contribution because we're not going to be so neurotic. Okay? So you just have to have a bit of self-confidence. If some value in society is not helpful and if it's harmful, you don't need to live by it. Yeah, you can just let it go. You have to have your own kind of sense of your own dignity, your own values, and live according to them. Okay? No? Because you might live in a society where, sometimes society really does have wrong values. We think, sometimes society thinks killing is good. Yeah, when one nation kills another, if it's our nation killing another nation, we think killing is good. If it's another nation killing our nation, then killing is bad. Huh? Excuse me? I don't get it. Yeah? So if you find these kind of non sequiturs in the general way of society, we don't need to think along that line. We don't need to agree with it. We can still have our own values and principles and live a very ethical, good life.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Now, I'm a bit upset by one Buddhist concept. Mm-hmm. Now, this is a common question in our life, commonly asked. Why do good people suffer and bad people have all the blessings sometimes? Now, the Buddhist answer is that because we can lead a good life in this present life, but because of our bad karma in our past life, it overwhelms our good deeds. Now, this one, to me, is a bit unsettling. Will it demoralize people like me? And if bad people today, they have all the blessings because of the good karma, they find that it's unfair. Because, as you say, what's important is this life. And they compare everything in this life, not the past and the future. Thank you.
Okay, so you're asking the question of why do good people suffer and bad people have good fortune? Okay, first of all, I'd like to say that there's no such thing as good people and bad people. Okay? Because all people have the Buddha nature, Everybody's totally equal in having the Buddha nature, so I don't think you can say somebody's a bad person. And if you look at all of us, we all do some good actions and we all do some bad actions, right? We're all a mixture. So there's nobody, I mean, unless you're a Buddha. Okay, we'll make an exception for a Buddha, we'll make an exception for the high-level bodhisattvas. They don't create any negative karma. As for the rest of us, we're a mixture. And it is not the case that even within this lifetime, the people who are unethical are happy and the people who are ethical are miserable. In fact, I think it's the exact opposite. Because if we're unethical, we don't feel good within ourselves. We may have wealth, but wealth doesn't mean beans if you don't feel good about yourself. Okay? So if we act in unethical ways, like let's say you're a CEO of a business, and you do all sorts of dirty business, and you cheat people, and you swindle, and you embezzle, and you have 5 luxury houses and 2 jet planes, are you going to be happy? Yeah, you have to still live with yourself. How do we feel about ourselves when we know we've acted unethically? Yeah, we feel lousy about ourselves. We may put on this big thing about I'm rich, I'm famous, da-da-da-da-da, but when we're alone with ourselves, we don't feel good, we don't feel happy. Yeah. When we have a peaceful heart, a kind heart, then whatever we do, we feel contentment about it. Whether we have a lot of money or don't, whether people like us or don't like us, we can still have happiness by the power of what our attitude is towards life. Okay? So I think real happiness and unhappiness are not measured by how much money we have, how much status we have, what kind of reputation we have, but real happiness and suffering are measured by how we live with ourselves inside of our own heart. Okay, so that's why I think that if we live in an ethical way, we do experience good things. We may not be wealthy, but that doesn't mean anything, because wealth doesn't necessarily make you happy. Now you think I'm completely crazy, don't you? What do you mean wealth doesn't make you totally happy? We've got to have more. We've got to have better. Yeah. I disagree.
Venerable?
Yeah.
I thought I would like to make a comment on releasing.
I can't hear you very well.
I thought I would like to add maybe it's a question on the topic of releasing animal, because Vesak Day is coming, and I think that is a practice. I think the issue is that all this releasing is creating a market demand, and that actually causes people to capture animal and birds. So do you have any comment on that?
Okay. So getting back to the thing of liberating animals, so it makes people capture animals. Yeah, I think the best kinds of animals to liberate are the ones that are going to be killed. Not necessarily the birds that are captured, because the birds that are captured are still alive. So if you don't liberate the birds who are captured, then nobody's going to capture birds to sell them to people who are going to liberate them. Okay? But if you liberate animals that are going to be killed, okay, then you're really saving life. And if you can stop eating meat, then you're really saving life. Oh, now you don't like me. But my question is, When you eat meat or fish or chicken, you're eating somebody else's body for lunch. Okay? Do you want somebody else to eat your body for lunch? Do you? You know, none of us want somebody else to say, "Oh, that looks so good, I want to eat you for lunch." You know? None of us want somebody to eat us for lunch. So if we don't want people to eat us for lunch, maybe we should treat other living beings with that same respect and not eat them for lunch. Okay.
I know that you are the founder of Sravasti Abbey. So over here there is a prayer request. Can you explain what is the significance of this?
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. So, yes, I am the founder, whatever that means, of Sravasti Abbey. It's a monastery in the U.S., probably the first monastery in the Tibetan tradition in the U.S. where monastics can go and prepare for ordination, where monks and nuns can live an ordained life without having to worry about their livelihood. So we just got the land 2.5 years ago. We're in the process of setting it up right now. And so there's some people living at the Abbey, and we practice together as a community. One of them is preparing for ordination. A few other people are considering ordination. And so there's on the brochure the thing about prayer requests, saying that the people at the Abbey will do prayers.
So what this means is, it's what I was saying before about dedicating the merit. Is, you know, when we, other people can make prayers for us, and that sends good energy our way, or it sets, it's hard to explain. You know, it's not like, you know, energy comes, zoom, you got it. But it's like there's, you know, when somebody's thinking good thoughts and sending their loving kindness towards you, that creates a good atmosphere around you whereby your own good karma can ripen. Okay? So the idea is that when you make offerings, when you're generous, then you're creating good karma. And then when the people you make offerings to dedicate for your welfare and your benefit, then they're sending that loving kindness towards you, which helps your own good karma ripen. So that's the idea behind the prayers that we do. And many people feel quite good knowing that other people are praying for them, knowing that there's some source of goodness in this world where people are very conscientiously and consciously cultivating positive thoughts towards others and sending that goodwill their way. And I think this is really the purpose of a monastery or a temple, and how monks and nuns function in society is because when you might be doing your regular things in society, and you might watch the 6 o'clock news and think, my goodness, what's going on in the world? But then when you think of people who are monastics, who are deliberately trying to create good ethical discipline, and who are meditating on loving kindness and sending that that loving kindness and dedicating their virtue to everybody on the planet, to everybody in the universe. When you think about the existence of people like that in our planet, it gives you some feeling of hope and some inspiration. So I think that having monastics and monasteries is very important for any society, because it gives you that feeling that there's goodness in the world and that there's people who are actively contributing to the good energy in the world. Okay, so that's the meaning behind us doing the prayers and dedications. And then other people create good karma by being generous
when they help support others who are intent on virtue.
If you see the past life is not important, why do you care about the future?
Why do I care about what?
The future.
The future. What I meant when I said past life wasn't important was that remembering specifically who we were in a past life is not important. Okay? What we did in a past life is important because it creates the cause for what we are now. But in any case, the past is the past. The future hasn't come yet. So the future is important because we're creating the cause for what we're going to be in the future.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's just sit quietly for a moment. So bring your attention to your own kind heart. Okay? Get in touch with that part of you that wishes yourself and wishes all other living beings well. Get in touch with that part of you that really wishes that people are peaceful inside, that people be content, that people are joyful to help and serve each other. And from that space of your own good heart, rejoice at all the goodness there is in the world. Think of all the positive actions that have been created today of different people helping others with motivations of kindness. And rejoice in all of that goodness. Think of the holy beings, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and all their virtuous actions, and rejoice in it. Let it really uplift your heart. And then let's take all that positive energy, that positive potential, and dedicate it, send it out. You can even imagine it as light radiating out from your heart. Okay, so send your own positive potential out into the world, thinking that it's magnified, that it increases, and it goes out to each and every living being, touching them, pacifying their mind, bringing them internal peace. Peace that's free from low self-esteem, peace that's free from depression. And so, in this way, let's dedicate so that everybody can be peaceful within their own heart, live peacefully together with others, and think of benefiting others. Let's dedicate so that the Buddha's teachings will exist in a pure way in our universe and in our mind forever. Let's dedicate so that everybody has all positive and conducive circumstances so that they can practice the Buddha's teachings and attain full enlightenment. Let's dedicate so that we can help each other along the path in this life and in all future lives. May we only do what benefits each other and helps each other gain enlightenment. Let's dedicate so that we have a very brave and courageous mind that is undeterred in our virtuous aims and in our positive motivations. And let's dedicate so that every living being can quickly be freed of all sufferings forever, can actualize all their potential and bring to fruition their Buddha potential. May everybody become a fully enlightened Buddha.